As promised, we start hour number 3 by having a conversation with a Super Bowl champion, a wide receiver and a return specialist for the Chiefs. He was taken with the 54th pick overall in last year's draft out of Western Michigan. 22 receptions on the regular season, a touchdown reception in the Super Bowl. We are joined right now via Zoom, no less, by Skyy Moore. Skyy, it's great to have you on. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Skyy, I'm great. It's great to talk to you. Great to have you on. Listen, when I introduce you as a world champion, as a Super Bowl champion, you've got to know, you're a young guy, but you have to know you will be introduced that way for the rest of your life. I don't mean for the rest of your playing days, but I mean literally for the rest of your life. So you better get used to it. How does it sound to you, and how does it feel?
It feels special to me, and it got a great ring to it. I'm liking to hear you say that.
I bet, man. Has it even sunk in yet?
It kind of really hasn't. I feel like tomorrow at the parade, when I see the city react to it, that it's gonna get more real. But sometimes, like when I woke up today and yesterday, it still don't feel real.
Skyy Moore joining us. Skyy, take me through it. Like, for instance, if you work your whole life to get to that spot, there have been so many amazing players that never got anywhere near that game. As a player, man, what's it like when you do all the work, you get to the day, and you run through that tunnel, and you hit that field, and frankly, we could talk about the turf later on, but man, what's it like going through that tunnel and hitting the field for the first time in the Super Bowl? Can you even explain what that adrenaline is like?
You really can explain it. Like, it's something that you gotta feel. Like, we got a lot of players on this team with experience in the Super Bowl, and they try to get you prepared for that, but you really can't prepare somebody for that moment unless they're in there. So it's like you really got to be there to understand like the feeling.
Skyy Moore joining us. So then you're into it, right? And if we start to break this down, Philadelphia dominates the first half in terms of time of possession. They've got that 10-point lead at halftime. I'm curious, you're right, you have a lot of guys that have been there before. What was the overall vibe like in the locker room at halftime, and what were guys telling each other?
We were basically saying, like, don't leave anything in the tank. This is our last 30 minutes. If we got to switch our energy up. We felt like we weren't ourselves in the first half. So we went and made the adjustments at halftime, came out with better energy, better focus, and it led to the result.
Skyy Moore joining us. Skyy, so what went through your mind when you saw Patrick Mahomes re-aggravate his ankle late in the second quarter and you see him limping off the field? Like, you know how tough this guy is, but it did not look good. What was the first thing you thought of when you saw that happen?
Honestly, I think I was in on the play where he started limping off the field, and I really didn't think too much of it. I was like, no, there's no way he's coming out of this game. Like he's gonna be cool. So me personally, I didn't have any doubt that he was gonna be okay.
Skyy, that's incredible, right? Like, you're not the only guy to say that. Like, you guys know him best. What is that? Like, is that a high threshold of pain, or is that something much deeper? Like, is this dude that competitive and that committed to his team and that committed to the cause that you knew there was no way he was coming out? Like, how did you know? Because it looked bad.
Yeah, it's just that. Like, he's committed. He's a true warrior, and can't nobody take that from him. And that's just something that he got inside of him since I've known him. And it's like, there's too much on the line for him to just go out on an ankle injury. And I knew for 100% fact that he wasn't coming out unless somebody took him.
Skyy Moore joining us. Right? Okay, sorry to interrupt you. Skyy Moore joining us. He was not coming out unless somebody took him out of the game. Man, who was going to roll up on Patrick Mahomes? Like, Andy Reid's a dude now, and he's going to be an all-time great. Eric Bieniemy is great. We can talk about him in a minute. But who was going to tell Pat that he was coming out of the Super Bowl? Anybody?
Wasn't nobody going to tell that man he was going to come out the Super Bowl, man. Not Patrick Mahomes.
You know what? I love that notion that you just said that he's a warrior. Like, if you look at Pat, you know he's amazing, right? With the arm talent and everything he can do. But, like, from a physical standpoint, whatever your definition of warrior or gladiator is, I mean, you got to admit, right? Dude's not the biggest. Dude's not the strongest. Dude's not the fastest. But like you just said, it's what you have inside of a guy, right? If you look at him, you might not think gladiator, but it's not about that, is it?
Yeah, it's not. It has nothing to do with that. It got everything to do with what's between the ears and like your mindset. And if you're around Pat long enough, you understand why he is who he is, and you understand the mindset that he brings every Sunday.
Skyy Moore joining us. He's a Super Bowl champ. So you played a big part in that comeback. You had that touchdown reception in the fourth quarter. Man, you were wide open. Were you surprised to see that much grass? And can you take us through the play? What did you see?
Yeah, so we went out there, and at the beginning of the play, I seen Pat. He called out the cover zero. So I knew it was a man-to-man. It was a man-to-man look, and that's exactly why we called the play. We knew that they played a lot of man-to-man at that part of the field, and with this play, we kind of played off of how like they reacted to our emotion. So if they were passing our emotions off, so I came like I was going to run across the formation like I did all game basically, and as soon as he snaps the ball, I go the other way. So that just gave the defense a different look, and they got confused right there. And yeah, I was surprised. As soon as I like stuck my foot in the ground and went the other way, I saw nobody was out there, so I knew I was going to get that touchdown. All I had to do was catch the ball.
Skyy Moore joining us. Perfectly stated. We just played that back on CBS Sports Network, and you actually lay that out perfectly as we watched it. Even better, like, not only are you now a part of Super Bowl history with that TD reception, but it was your first NFL touchdown. Like, you never, ever forget your first NFL touchdown. What was it like then to do it on the biggest stage in the world?
It just made it that much more special. You know, like, I've been wanting to get a touchdown for 30 weeks, it seems like. But, you know, it couldn't have came at a better time, you know, at the biggest stage.
It's worth the wait, man. It's worth the wait. The thing about waiting is you've got so many guys and so many weapons and so many options, and Pat's got so many guys to get the ball to. He does a real good job of spreading it around, but it had to be worth the wait. Scott, what about the turf? Was the turf as bad as everybody made it out to be? How would you describe it? Like, what was it like to be on that grass?
It was just yeah, it was kind of slippery. It wasn't too bad because like we played there before in week 1. So I remember us having a little bit of struggles in week 1. Just it wasn't like the greatest turf, or it was grass. It wasn't the greatest grass to, you know, do all the cutting and running routes and everything on. But it wasn't too bad. But you definitely had to put your mind to it when you make the change of direction moves.
At least you know where you're going. The defense doesn't. At least you know where you're going.
Right.
Skyy Moore joining us. Let me ask you something. As it starts to sink in, how surreal is it to think that your mom posted a pic on social media 12 years ago with the caption, NFL player in the making? Reporters came across this last week. Mom's called her shot, but obviously it runs so much deeper. Like, not only NFL player in the making, but now world champion in the making. What is her never-ending belief in you and the overall sacrifices that she made for you? What does that represent to you? And would you and I be having that conversation right now if not for all that?
Nah, yeah. Without my mom and really my whole support system between like my mom, my dad, and my grandmas, without their sacrifice and them pouring into me, I wouldn't be able to be here and wouldn't be able to be a Super Bowl champion. So that really just shows like the faith that they had in me. Once I told them what my goal was when I was like 5 years old, I wanted to be in life. They held me to it, and it helped me be who I am.
Skyy, if you state your goal at 5, and then the whole support group around you is making sacrifices all these years, and then you get to the big stage, you make a big play, and you win, what's it like to celebrate with those people in that moment?
Yeah, that's probably the best part. You know, like celebrating with the people that know where you came from, and like celebrating with the people that know like what it took to get to the moment. And when I got on when the confetti fell and I see my mom and my dad I seen them feel like champions, that made me feel like 10 times better about my whole process and my whole journey to get to that moment.
I like that. That is cool. One more thought for you. Given the success the team has had and as great as that offense has been in recent years, kind of hard to imagine how or why Eric Bieniemy continues to get bypassed for head coaching opportunities. Let me ask you, what's it like to play for him? And then what kind of marks do you give him as a play caller and a leader?
Yeah, I feel like he's just a great leader. You know, a great leader, somebody who's going to hold you accountable, somebody that's going to push you. And, you know, that's the type of coach that you need to do things that we do. And he's a big reason on why we win games and why our culture is the way it is, because he's not going to let you slip. He sometimes if you put in place like some rules at the beginning of the season, they might not be there at the end of the season. He's the guy that's going to make sure you are who you say you are, and you're following the culture day in and day out when you come through the building.
You know, you just answered my last question. I was going to say, you know, some guys are like brilliant coordinators, but maybe they're just not built to move that one chair over. They're not built to be the guy. Sounds like you think that he is absolutely built to be that guy. Like, how do you think that he would do as a head coach?
Oh, for sure. He would definitely do great as a head coach. You know, he's gonna definitely push you. He's for sure gonna push you, but you will see a lot of results, a lot of great results as for him being a head coach.
He's got to get the opportunity. Somebody's got to give it to him first. This guy is a Super Bowl champion. He had a touchdown reception in the Super Bowl. In fact, his first career TD. Skyy Moore joining us. Skyy, congrats on that. Great to have you on the show. Appreciate you on the conversation. That was fun.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you for having me.